Well, welcome back to the Piney Woods homestead, y'all. It's hot, it's muggy, extremely humid. Decided to get some bush hogging done first thing this morning before the grass dried off because there's some bad storms rolling in today, y'all. We're not used to bad storms, not real bad storms around here, but there's a threat of tennis ball size hail, tornadoes, elevated risks for bad storms. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take you around and show you what everything looks like after 5.5 inches of rain that we had over the past week in the gardens, as well as over the tiles where I put gravel, see how everything held up. And we're probably going to make this a 2-day video. We'll try to capture some of the storm as it comes through this evening if I'm brave enough to go out there on the porch at least and get a little video for you, as well as any aftermath. I'm hoping that our beautiful candy corn is going to stay upright. 50 to 60 mile an hour winds is what they're suggesting may happen today. So I don't know, y'all, but I'm hoping and I'm praying. All right, guys, we're going to get into it. Go down to the garden. Lisa's down there working right now. Thanks for stopping in. Hit that old like and subscribe if you haven't. And if you have, as always, guys, y'all, we appreciate you. You can tell that it's going to storm today. You can feel it. Feel it just in your bones.
Well, it's humid. Oh, get out of it.
Y'all, everything is held up pretty good. You should have seen, this place was a river, y'all. We had so much rain that it's a good thing that we heal up our rows. And we haven't always done it because we didn't always have a disc killer. And when we didn't, stuff drowned.
Like the okra rows were almost ankle deep.
Yeah.
In the
middle of the furrows.
So that would have been, they would have been completely drowned.
Middle of the hills.
Yeah, in between the hills. So if that had not been healed up, they would have been completely drowned out.
Yeah, the new upper section of the garden, it's holding water on one end. Not really a whole lot you can do about that. I'll probably, now that I can see it, I'll run my rows a little different next year, but either way, it worked. And it's thriving up there, even though the soil is not near as good as this down here due to cover cropping. But that'll come along.
Yeah.
Let me show you something that we did on the tomatoes on this trellis that we had to do, because between the rain and the weight of the tomatoes, they were starting to lay on the ground, a few of them.
This section right through here was fine for the most part. It was a little bit heavier than the rest, but once it got all that rain, it really started sagging more. And there's 2 reasons for this. One, I have about a good little chunk here of lemon boys, and they are absolutely loaded down, so that was a lot of weight from the fruit. And then further down I have the Kellogg's breakfast, and most of those I am letting them go. I'm not keeping them to 2 plants basically like I am the rest of them, for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to see how they did, and 2, because they are primarily such a large fruit, I wanted more quantity over massiveness basically.
So you're not suckering just those?
Right, which is why I've suckered them a little, but I mean, you can see.
Well, they're full.
Yeah, and then, you know, these down here are, but you can see, like, here's one of the tomatoes, and that's just, you know, and that's after I have just let them go. So it's, you know, as big as my hand.
They're heavy, and
yeah,
that's why we've done what we've done here. Bring them over here and show them what we have done, and we've done it in 2 sections.
So what Matthew did is cut a 2x4 and put a notch in it just to give a little bit extra support. And I think in the future it probably would be beneficial to add more posts instead of such a long span, or maybe me stagger the ones that I don't prune to 2 liters.
I tell you what I think would have been the best deal, and that is go ahead and tighten my wire a little bit more before we actually attach them, and just have these 2x4s ready to put in there in place, because burying those posts, that's a lot of manual labor. So if you just have the 4 posts on this 125-foot row and a few 2x4s to put in place when you need them, I think that's sufficient.
And the wire itself is holding up, you know, and you'll see people that do this with electrical conduit, and that would be great.
125 foot.
But it's not.
Maybe a 10-foot row.
Yeah, it's not feasible for us on this span. So, you know, this is a high steel wire, and like I said, it's holding up, but like you said, I think we should have had it cranked down a little bit tighter before.
But it's working.
Yeah, but it's holding up, and that's the main thing.
So y'all, this trellis really is working out great, and it was working fantastic as it was until we started getting a lot of rain. You take a heavy plant that's got a lot of heavy fruit on it, and you add water and wind to it, they're going to want to lay down. And so those 2x4s have really been beneficial in keeping these things up. I'm going to take you down a few rows here and just let you see how full our beans are becoming after all this rain.
And since the rains, everything through here has really taken off. The one thing with this row of our October beans, one of the nights or days of heavy rains, it laid them over into the rows. So it is a little bit tight through here. But
it's tight.
Yeah.
But you look at these Dixie, what is it? Dixie Lee.
Butter
Dixie
peas.
butter peas.
Yeah.
They're bushing out.
Yeah.
And vining out just a little bit. But so are the limas over here, these Ford Hook limas. And they're growing together in the center of the rows. There's going to be hand weeding from here on out as needed, but it shades out the weeds too. But there's some weeds we're going to have to pull after all this rain.
Yeah, and you can see, you know, we're already getting good. The good thing with the October beans is they are drought and heat tolerant.
What about flood tolerant?
So, I mean, they were doing good, but, you know, they did at least need water. They just didn't need that much water. So if you are in a dry area, they will grow good there. I mean, they grew well for us last year, and we didn't have flood and rains last year like this, really.
But it's looking good.
Yeah.
Everything's growing together. There's going to be a whole lot of picking going on.
Yeah.
Y'all, you can see all the mud right up in here on this upper side. I had figured on, when I healed these rows up, the water shooting out the other end and then coming back down the slope, because this new patch kind of slopes down and that patch kind of slopes out the other way. And I believe it would have, but I've got a couple of, and this will work itself out the more that we use this spot for gardening. Got kind of a hump right there in the center. Remember, I had a bunch of stumps in here that came out. So once stumps settle, and they will after all this rain, once everything settles, the ground keeps getting worked, this will end up not holding water as bad. But fortunately, these hills have kept our okra from drowning. And the okra's coming on up now. It's about 8 inches tall. Y'all, we just hadn't really had any hot yet. And okra loves heat. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of hot soon. As much as we've enjoyed 70s and low 80s, we're going to have some hot soon. All right, while you are working in the garden, I'm going to hook to the box blade, put it back on the tractor. I normally keep that on there all the time. And I need to go down the drive. We've got a nice grade on part of our drive, and some of this heavy rain started a rut, and I need to get on that before we have even more severe weather today. So. And
I'm just trying to doubly secure everything, because
the wind, y'all.
Heavy winds and hail,
we're just hoping that, you know, we've worked really hard in this garden, so hopefully, or Lisa has, I've helped too, but there's a purpose for the extra large garden this year, and you're going to see that on the next video. So hang in there, guys. We'll reveal what we're doing. I think I got some stuff in my beard from bush hogging. I'll hang on that till later. Y'all, I was concerned about all this 5+ inches of rain washing out over my tiles where I had done the grading work, packed everything in. So I drug gravel, as you saw in a previous video, from our driveway up here. I was robbing the Peter to pay Paul because I didn't want to have to try to spend money on a load of gravel right now. So I just got some on it here, some washed stone to hold it in place, and there's some screenings mixed in with it, but it'll hold in place good enough till I can get more. But y'all, I don't know if you can see down here. I'm not going to walk all the way because it's so muddy, but that big hole that I was digging fill out of, that I hit the spring in, or groundwater, whatever it was flowing. It's 5 feet deep now, and if it gets hot enough, you're going to see me jumping in that thing. I'm going to work on the driveway. We'll pick this thing back up when it starts storming. If it does, maybe it'll pass, and I hope that that's the case, y'all. So y'all, it's the tail end of the day. We've already had supper. We worked out here quite a bit today. It got up to over 100 degrees was the real feel. Humidity wasn't that bad though, so I was able to do quite a bit outside today, Lisa in the garden, me on the tractor, which is kind of the way I like it. But y'all, I'm admiring this sweet corn, and I'm just praying that it doesn't blow down tonight. Bad storm's rolling, it's coming. You can't see it from this angle. It's black back towards the west. You might be able to hear the thunder. It's coming, y'all, and this thing's supposed to have some nasty hail, tornado threats, and high winds. So maybe, just maybe, this corn will be standing in the morning. We'll find out together. All right, y'all, it's 7 o'clock in the morning the next day. We're gonna walk down and see how the corn fared, and a little bit later in the morning after breakfast, we'll go down and see how the in-ground garden fared. And I don't have a great feeling about it, y'all. All right, not horrible with the corn. I have seen my corn crop in the past completely laid over, the whole thing. So the edges are standing. It is wild how just really the best portion of the entire little 20 by 20 plot here is laid over. The heaviest, tallest stalks. But the good thing is from our experience, if the sun had hit it good today, they should stand up fairly well. The bad thing is if another storm like the one last night comes, they won't stand up again, y'all. So hopefully this corn will stand on up today. When the sun gets on it, it hadn't tasseled out yet, so that's a good thing. So hopefully it'll stand up. I'm a little nervous about going down to the in-ground garden with that tomato trellis. It's our first year using that wire trellis. So we'll find out here shortly, guys. But for now, I'm gonna go in there and drink some coffee. All right, we're down here at the in-ground garden, and you can see now how this water is piling up in here on this end. But there's a little hump right in the middle, and I'll work that thing out when it comes time to cover crop this thing in the fall. But that's why we get everything healed, y'all, so it doesn't drown out here. So this is looking pretty good. As far as tomatoes, let's see. This is the moment of truth. Not good. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna get down here a little closer. I think maybe you need a new laborer in your garden.
Yes, I do. These usually don't need Florida weaving.
Because of why?
Because they're more of a compact plant. And I grew them last year. Didn't need any weave on them. And they're great for containers and stuff like that you wouldn't Florida weave in. So
I think the problem is 2 inches of rain an hour.
yeah, so I'm gonna maybe can get my laborer to put me a stake right here, and I'm gonna run. They're not broken, they're just knocked over because the dirt is so saturated, and get me a run of Florida weave to hold them back up, because they're all of these are just completely loaded down. So And the squash will stand back upright in the sun today. But you can see the ones that do have the Florida weave, which these will get much taller. So that's why they also need the Florida weave. But they're fine. But my tomatoes are fine, so that's a plus.
Y'all, in the totality of things, it's really not that bad.
No.
It's just we have had so much rain, just buckets and buckets and buckets of rain. Went from drought to monsoons.
Yeah, we're not getting like showers or even in storms like we're used to. It's
like everything's more intense than it used to be, y'all. I don't know if you're noticing that, but it seems to be more intense. Sometimes I think it's by design too.
Yeah.
Guys, we're not, let's see, we are not, what's the words I'm looking for?
I have no idea.
I ain't got no words this morning, y'all, other than the fact that in all things we give thanks. Even if corn's knocked down, beans are knocked down. Actually, the beans look pretty good.
Yeah, the beans.
They were already knocked down, so it's not that bad. Squash looks good down here. Only one little row of pepper plants that I know I had to stake up this morning.
All you gotta do is give me a stake so I can run a line.
Yeah, yesterday she asked me to do it, and I said, I'm just too tired. So I'll get on that, y'all, but the sun will stand everything else back up, good Lord willing, and we'll have a decent crop this year. Guys, that's all we got for you. We're a little bummed, y'all. We ain't gonna lie to you, but...
Well, and the surrounding the corn patch is my semi-pricey sunflowers that I had a project to do with, and they were looking great.
And they're still standing. I look.
They're still standing, so hopefully the corn will get up off of them, and
it'll get up off of them. But y'all, we ain't crying around here. We get up and we keep on getting it, because that's what life is. It throws some hard storms at you, and you just keep on getting it. So that's what we're doing, right?
Yep.
Amen. Y'all have a good day, a great week. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise too much higher. We'll see you on the next one.